Big win for the Knicks on Friday night as OG Anunoby delivered a game-winning three-pointer in Memphis with 5.3 seconds to go. Knicks, they stunned the Grizzlies 114 to 103. So let's talk some Knicks hoops. We're going to do it with the Dean of Knicks Film School. It's my guy, Jonathan Macri, who joins me now. J-Mac, what's going on?
Oh man, Dex, I got to tell you, after last weekend where the sky was falling, people jumping out of windows, jumping off any tall structure they could find, it is nice to at least get the vibes back in something resembling good order, and last night certainly helped that out a lot.
Hey, look, last night is a good start. I'm hoping that when I record New York Got Game this week, that we are more positive vibes around the
Yeah,
fan base. Because last week, whew, that was that was a little rough. It was a little
it,
bit
was,
rough
it,
for
it
the
hit
fan base.
hard.
Hit hard. Yes, it did. I felt that from the fan base. But let's talk about last night's game because Mitchell Robinson, he made his long-awaited return to the lineup, J-Mac. What stood out to you about his performance and how much of a boost do you think his presence gives the Knicks down the stretch for the rest of the season?
Yeah, thinking back to just watching him come out on the court for the first time. I know as a fan, and I've been now covering the team for a while. I tend not to get as emotionally invested in players, but seeing him come out, the longest tenured Nick, obviously by far at this point, and just being out there playing, it gave me an emotional lift. And I have to think to a certain extent, it gave maybe his teammates an emotional lift too. You look at the play on the court, obviously he was a plus 11 in 12 minutes, which game to game plus minus, you don't always want to make too much out of that. But then you look at some of the other numbers from last night. They had 10 steals. They turned the Grizzlies over a bunch of times. I don't think it's a coincidence that their two big defensive wings, Mikal Bridges and OG Anunoby, had arguably their best game in tandem on the defensive end in the game that Mitchell Robinson is back. I think his presence out there just allows their defense to function at a higher level as a whole. And that's because of the threat of what he could do on the defensive end and also just his impact. There was a play at the end of the third quarter, single-handedly stopped a pick and roll with John Morant, didn't even hit rim on the shot. Like that's the sort of thing that has been missing from this team this year. And to add that component, as long as the offense can still function at a high level, I mean, it's hard not to be excited about where they can go from here with him back.
Yeah, it's hard not to be. No, I don't think you were somebody who's saying that, hey, he's going to be the savior for this, but
Yeah.
you could definitely see the impact, especially in last night's game where Cat gets in foul trouble and you saw that impact at the rim defensively. And I agree with you. You could see how it's impacted the wing defenders. Wing stop wasn't looking good, but they were sure looking good last night. Now,
Yeah.
J Mac, it's a great win for the Knickerbockers in Grind City on Friday for sure. The Knicks, they've been one of the best teams in close games this season. Another clutch win there. What do you think makes them so resilient in these late game situations?
I mean, I think the fact that they have been there before, I know obviously a lot of the pieces have changed out over the last few years. I do think that there is a collective, muscle memory there in that locker room, whether it's with the coaching staff or just the key players. And then can I just cheat and say Jalen Brunson? I mean, his clutch baskets have gotten a lot of love this week. Shout out to Benji Ridholtz of Knicks Film School, did a whole video compiling all of his clutch baskets from the entire year. It was amazing. But can we also recognize his clutch passing? I was looking it up before. I have it right here. In terms of assists in the clutch this year per 36 minutes, he's at 7.6, again, per 36. It may not sound like a lot until you look at the only guys who have more than him on the season, again, in clutch situations: Trae Young, Nikola Jokic, Chris Paul, LeBron James, Luka Doncic, and Jamal Murray. So you're talking about he's up there in clutch situations with the best playmakers in the game. And obviously last night for him to have the wherewithal to find OG Anunoby on the wing after he drew the defense in. I mean, I don't know how many more guys in the league you'd want running your show in the last couple minutes of a close game than Brunson.
Well, see, I like that, J Mac, because you brought up the passing, right? A lot of times in the clutch,
Yeah.
people will think just about the shooting, the shot making, but the passing matters too, right? And you saw last night the threat of him making the shot. He gets doubled and he makes the right play. And that's part of being Captain Clutch. And I agree. It's not cheating when you say Captain Clutch is the answer here because it's a huge part of why the Knicks have been good in clutch situations. Now, speaking of somebody else who's been good, Miles McBride, spark off the bench with timely buckets. He also had a huge dunk in this one. How important has his development been, especially with the team's lack of depth this season?
He is in every sense of the word. It feels like their sixth starter. which is what a great sixth man should be. Now, I know a lot of fans are going to hear that and say, well, he should be getting the minutes of the sixth starter. And I've been saying recently, and I'm not obviously the only one, that I'd like to see his minutes increase. Sure enough, last night you saw him play 28 minutes. That's one of his highest minutes totals in the season in a non-blowout situation. But you talk about his development. I mean, I'm thinking back, as a rookie, this is a guy who took over 100 field goal attempts as a rookie and made fewer than 30% of them. There's only been one other guy in the last 20 years in the NBA to have done that. To say that he was an offensively inefficient player when he came into the league is a vast understatement. And then you fast forward to now, he's actually having a down shooting season compared to where he was last year, and he's still league average in terms of points per shot attempt. And then you look at everything else that he does, the energy he brings on the defensive end. And then I know the thing that people who want to see him play more minutes are pointing to the most. You look at his impact in pretty much every single lineup he's in. You put him in place of basically any one of the starters, the team performs better with him in there. I think he just has a certain amount of impact in that he could fill so many roles. He's not someone that needs the ball to be effective. Even when he's not shooting it great, you're still going to see the team perform better because defenses respect the threat of his shooting so much at this point, which again, testament to his work ethic that he started where he started and now he's here.
Yeah, no doubt about that. And he's had a tremendous impact on his team. We'll see what impact he has with different lineups going forward. Last thing for me, J-Mac, Knicks head to Miami. Knicks fans excited about this. This is a rivalry matchup to take on the Heat.
Yep.
What do you think are the biggest keys for them to come away with a win in that matchup on Sunday evening?
Yeah, I mean, the Knicks are, I think, at a level as a team where if they play their game and they, like we've heard some players in the locker room say, like, we don't have to worry about any specific opponent. Our biggest opponent is us, and I think that's true to a certain extent. If they go out there and they play their game and they play the right way, which even last night, I don't know that I would say that they played their best ball game, which is part of what made the win so impressive, is they weren't at their best and they still found a way to win. As far as Miami, I mean, look, they're a 500 team. They're always going to be well coached. Obviously, Eric Spoelstra. I'm looking at Tyler Hero, who made his first All-Star team this year, largely on the back of his scoring, but he's scored well before. The thing that I think elevated him in the eyes of a lot of coaches when he was selected as a reserve this year is his passing. And I was looking at their game log. The Miami Heat this year, when Tyler Hero has 7 or more assists, which credit to him, he's actually done that 20 times. They are 12-8. When he has 3 assists or fewer in a game, they are only 4-8. So I think the key for them is to keep Tyler Hero. Look, if Tyler Hero is going to beat you with some crazy shots, I mean, you're going to tip your cap. Don't let him beat you as a playmaker. Keep the ball in his hands. If he's going to make tough shots, he's going to make tough shots. So I imagine Mikal Bridges obviously will get that assignment out of the gate. I think Mikal's defense has been better of late. I certainly was impressed with what he did to hold down Ja Morant. Tyler Hero's a bit of a different challenge, but I think as long as they could hold Hero down, they should be all right. The one thing I also want to say about Miami, not a team that shoots a ton of threes. They have essentially 2 centers in their starting lineup along with Jaime Jaquez. Those guys are not, really shooters. So we've seen the Knicks get beaten a lot this year with teams firing away from 3. At the very least, I don't know if that's going to be as big of an issue against this team, which maybe bodes well in their favor.
Yeah, it could bode well in their favor. And look, if it bodes well in their favor, they win this game, they have them win in Memphis, it could be a very different vibe toward the end of this weekend than we saw last weekend with wins over the Grizzlies and the Heat. We'll see how that all plays out on Sunday. That is Jonathan Macri. Check him out on Knicks Film School and a great job they do with content around the New York Knickerbockers. J-Mac, I appreciate the time. I will talk to you soon.
I appreciate you as always, Dex. Be well.